Hey, what's going on, Clipper people? It is me, William the Opinion Updike.
And I am positive Chuck Mockler.
And today we're going to talk about what the Clippers need to do to beat the Lakers, as well as talk who and what we want to see more of in Thirsty Thursday. We do it every single Thursday. And then in Shavings, which is where we kind of wrap up everything else, we're going to talk about some Ty Lue Coach of the Year talk, as well as a possible timeline for Norm Powell.
Kind of.
All that and more coming up right about now.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome to Locked On Clips.
Is that part of the Locked On NBA Network?
In fact, it is.
Oh.
We're coming at you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Make us your first listen. Kill some windshield time. We're getting into this Clippers versus Lakers preview. Same injury report as the last game for the Clips. Just the regular outs are still out. No updates. Tinfoil hats. Still at the ready. But losing some of their luster. Will, what do we need to do well to get this extra win over the team across the hall, who is not doing very well right now?
Yeah, so I think a great individual performance that could really lift the Clippers in this one would be if we could get a strong showing from Marcus Morris.
Yeah,
so
he likes playing the Lakers.
He does, and looking at these three matchups on this season, he's actually been the leading scorer for the Clippers in two of them.
There we go.
He had a 29-point scorcher in our second matchup, where AD missed that final shot. We won by 1.
Sucks to suck.
AD actually only finished with 30 points in that game. He was the game's leading scorer, but only by a single point over Marcus Morris. Morris also had 21 in that first matchup. However, a little bit of a fallback to earth. Most recently, he had 10 in that performance. Would love to see him turn that around. Kind of an interesting note is actually he fared really well looking at the matchup data. He was most efficient when he was defended by AD. So a tough loss for the Clips there too.
Yeah, that's a tough go. Speaking of things that AD does well that we still have to kind of deal with, despite him being not in the game, the Clippers need to, at the very least, tie in points in the paint. And I know that seems like maybe an easy thing or a hard thing depending on how in-depth you are on the Clippers' stats this year.
Yeah.
But the last game out, it was literally 50-50 in terms of points in the paint. Both teams put up 50 points, and we won by 3 after blowing a 15-point lead. The 1-point win before that, which was the skipping Reggie game winner that we won by 1, we won points in the paint 54-52. So there's it's only 2 games, sure, but there's a pretty clear indicator of if the Clippers are going to have a chance to win a game, which I think any game you win by 1 possession, each team has a chance for the most part.
Definitely.
We need to at least tie.
And with this points in the paint thing, I mean, I'm of the opinion that this probably comes down more to our defense in the paint.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yes, because the offense is, it's going to be there for the most part, right? If we're bombing,
we know what it is.
We know what it is. If we're bombing it from 3, obviously this becomes less of an issue. But you're right. I hope Zoo can kind of keep his hot streak up on both ends of the court. I hope Hartenstein, when he gets thrown in there, is making some good decisions. And I hope that we see some small ball Rocco 5 a little bit sooner. If Hart doesn't have it, it's kind of like Zoo sometimes where it's oh, Hart doesn't have it tonight. We know that immediately.
Yeah.
Let's not do this. Maybe just a little bit sooner. We just got to hope Zoo stays out of foul trouble and things like that because this team gets really physical with Zoo.
Yeah.
But just points in the paint, let's just hope we tie or it's within 2 points of us losing. It's got to be close.
Speaking of the defense, another thing that we need to do is just really try to limit their transition opportunities.
Yep.
Look, you can't give what is, and I don't want to be too harsh, but kind of a broken half-court offense easy opportunities.
I don't think that's harsh at all. They have
score
84. I think the last game they had out, it was there was some crazy number where they had 86% of their possessions were ISO in the half court, and they had an 84 defensive rating.
Yeah.
Or offensive rating, excuse me.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong in calling it a broken half-court offense, especially with no AD.
And in terms of transition, we've actually only allowed them double-digit transition points in one of these 3 matchups. So I'd like to see that trend continue.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about Zoo, and Robert Covington, I do think, is one of those people who can be a stopper in transition and defense. All of a sudden you think you're getting a bucket. No, that's a steal now. That's
you're doing a layup
grab.
with air.
Yeah, that's a grab. You actually have nothing.
Yeah.
And Amir and Terrence can also be really good in this regard. What else do we need to do well to put this one away?
Hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
I hope this doesn't become kind of like the rebounding thing used to be for this team where we would just copy and paste it from each game preview. But since the All-Star break, the Clippers have played 3 games and have not won the turnover battle in any of them. Versus the Lakers on the 25th, Like, sure, we lose that battle. That's fine. The Lakers are, they're a pesky team defensively. I'll give it to them, I guess. It's a different thing when you're playing a rival. But losing twice to the Rockets is like kind of annoying and potentially cause for concern if this trend continues.
In turnovers, yeah.
Yeah. We need to hope that guys who don't handle the ball a ton aren't turning the ball over. Zoo had 4 turnovers last time versus the Lakers.
Yeah.
Which is brutal. Hartenstein last time out versus the Rockets had 5, which was just, and I know he handles the ball obviously more than Zoo, but it's just like, we can't have those guys not able to do their thing. And I just hope Reggie is under 5 and we don't get too many like my fault followed by patting yourself on the chest
type turnovers.
If they're just playing great defense and forcing it, that's just tough to deal with.
Yeah.
But if we're giving them, and this goes to your transition thing too, if we're giving them chances to get out and run, even though Westbrook's only shooting 50% on shots at the rim, which is insane, we can't give them those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's get into what could go wrong for the Clippers in this one. So to me, like, second chance points is really the biggest category where the Lakers have been able to carve out an advantage on us.
Yep, we see it early too, it feels like.
Yeah, they have been able to hurt us there. Through these 3 matchups, we've been outscored in second chance points 16-12, 21-4, and 21-8.
A lot of that's Dwight too.
Yeah, well, and also, like, important to note, like, some of these second chance numbers are bolstered by the poor field goal percentage of the Lakers over these last 2 games.
Very good call.
So I still see it as one of those things, though. If this is sort of one of those advantages you can crush out, or one of those opportunities that you can kind of stomp on, it's very demoralizing for a team, especially a team that's, lost 3 or 4 in a row or whatever. And it's
they
kind
got
of
a lot of
on
issues over there. Yeah, that's a really good call. And I hope our outside shooting isn't off. So Luke Kennard was the only Clipper to make more than 2 threes the last time out versus the Lakers specifically. He went 5 of 8, which was great. Also, he went 2 for 10 versus the Rockets in that mini series. He's due. We might get another absurd night from Luke Kennard, but I hope we do, because Covington made 2 of 3 last time versus the Lakers, which is kind of an anomaly in and of itself. Everyone else on the team combined to go 3 for 13. So, like, the math works out that if the Clippers shoot their average from outside and play competent defense inside, that we'll beat this Lakers team, kind of just based on shot profile.
Yeah.
It's just how it works, unless Melo gets crazy hot or something like that. We just got to hope we either have another savior again, who's going to go 5 for 8, or it's a little evenly spread out. So, like, the Lakers kind of have to worry about everyone spacing the floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that would be nice.
My thing is can the Clippers have another, like, single savior? Like, maybe if Morris really goes off, who we've kind of talked about. Otherwise, I think it just has to be more of, like, guys hitting those shots when they're open. Yeah, and it's not, the attempts, unless they're getting, completely left off of on defense, which I don't really see.
Sure.
Like, it's just going to be making the most of those opportunities that you have.
Yeah, that's a good call. And on the other side of the ball, let's just let them shoot 3s. Let LeBron shoot 3s. Let Westbrook shoot those weird bank shots. Like, I'm just fine with it. But we do, like, it felt like last time we played the Lakers, we kind of, like, they don't have a lot of shooters, but we were kind of sagging on Melo a bit. And Melo's role in this Lakers offense is way too big.
Yeah.
And that's not his fault, but, like, he's, like, kind of their main floor spacer, which at his age and stuff is brutal. But let's just stick to him. Stick on his hip. It'll make things difficult for their offense.
Yeah, definitely.
You feeling good about this one?
I mean, based on body of work, I would say I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And I mean,
hard
we've
to
already
beat a team 3 times.
Well, we've already beaten them 3 times.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, 4 times.
4 times.
Even harder, I guess.
Yeah, it would be a little bit crazy to me if we completely swept the series. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a little irrelevant, right? Either way, because we already have
seed-wise, we're not really losing the 8.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, and we have the tiebreaker over them, so it's kind of like,
yeah, it'd just be a little, little feather in the cap.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
absolutely. I think the Clips got this one. We got to feel confident about it. Let us know if you're going to the game. Coming up, we're talking Thirsty Thursday, what we want to see more of. But first, got to give a shout out to betonline.net. There might be less football being played. Depending,
is there?
I mean, I think so. But betonline.net has way more odds and info for this upcoming NBA playoff season. From scored points, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all things betting in 2022. And thankfully, it's not just football. BetOnline.net's basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC odds, and they had some odds on the State of the Union, if you're into that kind of thing, is the best in the business. From sports right down to the State of the Union address, BetOnline is your number one online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right, so we're back with Thirsty Thursday. Look, every single Thursday, Chuck and I like to talk about what we're thirsty for, what we want to see more of, sometimes what we want to see less of.
We actually haven't done an Edema Thursday in a while.
Yeah.
That is the opposite of thirst, for those wondering. We determined that. Maybe we'll say that for next week. There's nothing I'm super tired of now, except for Sammy and Rodney still being on the team.
But that's a constant for you. That's every episode.
Yeah, I think about that when I close my eyes.
Yeah.
What do we got up first, Will?
So this is going to be like completely contradictory kind of to what I said and what we talked about yesterday, but I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but like I'm kind of thirsty to get definitive word on Paul George and Kawhi, even if it means that they're not going to be playing.
I don't think anyone's going to take that the wrong way, because I think that makes a lot of sense.
Like,
we're yo-yoing. Everyone was hyped up on that last Friday.
Yeah.
Myself included. I woke up and I was like, we're going to get a PG update. I like dress nice to work from home. And then just nothing. So I think this is a totally fair one.
Like, obviously, I would want them to come back.
Sure.
I
They're
just
healthy. Let's
feel
do
like
it.
we're reaching a point in the season, like we're getting pretty close to the point of no return, if I'm being perfectly honest.
The runway, as we like to say on the show sometimes.
V short. It's like aren't they training how to go less on the runway in that movie Pearl Harbor? They're like setting up little obstacles so you can do it shorter to save fuel or whatever.
I don't know, but that movie was bad, so I'll take your word for it.
Anyways, I just feel like I'm going to be able to breathe a sigh of relief when there's a definitive ruling, even if it's not the answer that we want.
That's a good call. I would describe it as there's almost a cloud of hope, if that makes sense.
A fog, really.
The fog of hope is a thing, I think, right now for Clippers fans for sure, where it's like there's this idea that they're coming back because we just haven't been told anything else. So you're right. It is the fog of hope, 100%.
Well, and I just feel like it gives us a chance as fans to kind of like calibrate our expectations and like, reconvene on what is important, which, we've talked about since the beginning of this season. It's like developing the core around our two superstars and seeing like what that's really made of. And I think they've done a great job of that. But I think it's just a little bit easier if we're not kind of doing the what if game or when or
it's so funny to think about this, because laid out on the table, you're like, if they don't come back, the Clippers, let's ruin someone's day, right? Like play in, I'm very confident about a play-in game with this team, no problem. First round series, let's do it. Like there's literally nothing to lose.
Let's take a top seed to six games.
Yeah,
and
let's
like
ruin
and make it really annoying.
Yes, 100%. And then there's this not totally out of the question idea that if even one of Paul George or Kawhi comes back, we have a fair shot at getting to the Western Conference Finals. Like, it's so crazy that, though, you're totally right. Those are the two options of like, well, if they don't come back, we'll be a very difficult, annoying team to play. But if they do come back, hey, maybe we'll win it all.
Well, and I mean, we also like, we don't entirely know, because it'll never be made clear to us like what the conversation is internally.
Right. Like Clipper Spencer said, like, is Kawhi playing secret one-on-one? Like,
yeah, but like, I just feel like it'd be a lot easier for everyone involved to understand like the roles and rotations and basically just the pecking order if there's no ambiguity about what this team is as it goes into the playoffs, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a bunch of sense. Do we think they already know?
I mean, they definitely know a lot more than they're telling us, of course.
Because Terrence Mann had that quote where he was like, I don't think they're coming back at all.
That's not what he said at all, but
he said he didn't expect PG back.
He said we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
No, Terrence Mann said that. He said, he didn't expect him back. I'm just saying. See, this is the issue, though.
Yeah.
Right here is the issue. Speaking of Terrence Mann, I'm thirsty for more of the same from this moderately aged NBA player. Last few games.
Old man.
11-7-5, 9-8-2, 19, 10, and 4 against the other team across the hall. Hopefully he can have the same impact on a Thursday night. This is what I think peak Terrence looks like. These chunky stat lines, if that makes sense. Like these stat lines where it's like even the 9, 8, and 2, you're like, that's not exactly jumping off the page, but I'll tell you what, that's helping us in every way.
That's something
that
you
we
can
need
get
help.
consistently. Like, that's kind of peak for Terrence, right? He's
He's a
guy.
There's nothing wrong with that.
He's a guy who can be like a glue role player with like big upside potential.
Yes, fully. What we're seeing from Terrence this year, when the team is fully healthy, has to have everyone. Maybe this is a hot take. More excited for next year for Terrence than they were for this year. Maybe because of injuries and stuff like that.
I don't know about that, man. The expectations were pretty high for.
I think
for
the
Terrence
hope
coming
was
in.
high. I think the expectations were, yeah, that's fair. Some people thought he was going to be most improved, which was wild. Which we talked about a few times on this show. But he can kind of get like, he's a flirt with a double-double guard.
Yeah.
As long as he's aggressive and kind of able to have his defense help him stay on the floor. He's been using his size well lately. He kind of gives like opposing point guards problems because he's so big.
Yeah.
Which is great. And what I want to see is like when he's out there in a lineup that hits a drought when he's in kind of the point guard role, to just start going downhill. Like, and when I say go downhill, I mean all the way down the hill. I don't mean stop halfway down the hill and turn around and shoot a weird jumper. I mean go straight to the bucket, either put up a layup, because we know his finishing, which I feel like he's kind of underutilized this year, is kind of crazy. His double clutches, his ability to switch hands is really impressive. Or he threw that no-look pass to Amir last game that was like, okay, you're still kind of pulling things out that we didn't exactly knew you had. I just want to see him be more aggressive and put his head down when there's a drought, because he's gotten better at that overall. But when the team needs kind of a spark or something, that's where we need it, is downhill, because the ball starts to move side to side on a bench lineup where it's not as useful as like the starters and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of this bench, I'm thirsty for this. What I believe all season has been kind of an underrated bench to get back into its groove.
Love it. Yeah, let's go.
So this bench throughout the entire season has actually been the 6th highest scoring bench in the NBA.
I love this coaching staff.
Top 10 in net rating for the season. So, they're getting it done on both ends of the floor. Now, from a scoring perspective, they dropped to the 11th highest scoring bench post All-Star break, which, granted, 3 games. We are still 3-0.
Yeah.
And 20th in net rating over that same stretch.
Yikes.
So some of this, I think, a little of this has to be Luke kind of not going off for 2 of these 3 games.
2 of 10 versus the Rockets is brutal from 3 for the bench, like for all intents and purposes.
And then I guess my follow-up is any of this an indictment on Terrence as the leader of the second unit, or is this more of a heart thing?
So that's really funny. So I don't know if Terrence is leader of the second unit. I just think he's the de facto point guard.
Yeah.
Which is 2 different things.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But I think some of it is a heart thing. The Clippers have lost his minutes.
In terms of the net rating, Hart is definitely reflected
in these numbers. 3 games. It's been bad.
As is like Brandon Boston Jr. in that last game.
Yeah, so there's been some interesting lineup tinkering from the old master Ty Lue that we've seen, but I don't know if it's so much on Terrence, just because Hart's been pretty brutal.
Yeah,
I think it's hard. I think it's more on Luke, but that's just because he's missing shots. He's not like Luke missing threes is so much easier to deal with than Hartenstein having
like 4
ill-advised turnovers and
3-point attempts
and 3-point attempts and getting hunted on defense.
Yeah,
his at the rim defensive numbers are like pretty good, but it's away from the rim that when he kind of falls asleep a bit on some things. This is a good point. I think it's mostly on Hart.
And then
we
I guess
should keep also to be clear.
Oh yeah, also to be clear. Also, I just feel like it begs the question. I mean, has this bench taken a step backwards without the consistent presence of Eric Bledsoe?
I think so. It's hard to not think that, because he helped short up a lot on both ends.
Yeah,
which was big. Also, real quick aside, F Portland for just
is
not
Bledsoe
playing.
Gonna play again?
He's never gonna play again. This is now the second Clippers player who's been screwed by the team he went to. Jermichael Green with the Nuggets, which I
Yeah.
will never forget. At least he got paid.
Never forgive, never forget.
Never. Realize. Something a wise person told me. And Bledsoe to the Blazers, different situations contractually, but like, you're just not playing this guy. He could help a lot of teams. But anyway, to your point.
So you don't think there's any legitimacy to the Achilles designation?
He didn't miss a single game with the Clippers.
I gotta agree with you. You gotta ask the question.
Yeah, yeah. Will's wearing a Blazers t-shirt right now. Neil Oshley's actually in the room staring at us. Ousted former GM. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's a lack of Bledsoe thing?
I mean, it's a lot of things. This. I was speaking specifically of just post All-Star break, which is only 3 games, so it's a little bit of a small sample size. But yeah, I do think Bledsoe is who has been for the majority of his career an NBA level starter.
Yeah.
So having somebody like that running the second unit, even if he's not scoring. I still think is valuable, especially.
That's what Terrence needs to get better at too. Where it's like, if he's not scoring, play that good defense, get those chaos rebounds, that kind of thing. He's had some good mentors to learn from point guard stuff.
Definitely,
which has been great. Let us know what you're thirsty for over at Locked On Clips. Coming up, we're talking yet another Clipper on And One, as well as Coach of the Year talk and the Metaverse, because I want to talk about it. But first, Will, you know how many cars I have?
A few.
More than 5, less than 26.
Not counting all the triplicates as one car.
Well, I have doubles and triples of a few. Where could I get doubles and triples of my car parts?
You can get those parts over at Rock Auto. We mentioned it up top, but this show is actually brought to you by Rock Auto. Look, with the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning? Why do you need 3 Barracuda carburetors? Because I have triples. And why would you want to wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Quick example, Honda Odyssey fuel pump. $353 from a chain store, cool $216 from Rock Auto.
Not bad.
Rock Auto is a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
All right, welcome to Shavings.
Hey,
there's some stuff on the floor. Oh, it's Shavings. Or we just kind of talk about random stuff around the Clippers verse. Norm Powell might be close to coming back.
Hey,
we don't know. We're not going to know from the team. No one will. He posted a return loading pic on his Instagram, or And One posted it, excuse me. Side note of him being on And One.
Weird.
Shout out And One.
Still a shoe company.
Well, still just a company in general. Make a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's a lifestyle brand. Trez was the last Clipper on And One, and he actually left And One basically because the shoes weren't good enough.
He kind of would turn an ankle a lot. Do you remember how often Trez would roll an ankle?
And then punch the stanchion? He's like, oh, he's fine. But he left And One because the shoes, performance issues. I remember it was citing performance issues or some weird thing like that. Any concern here given Powell has a foot issue?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, just making sure that I'm not being too crazy about that. And One, however, did Trez would get some really cool player additions.
He really did, in the packaging and everything would be really.
I think it was Veterans Day that he got that really cool one with the crazy case.
Yeah,
that was cool. Also, it's unclear if Norm Powell's been on And One or if he's now on And One. I can't imagine they signed him when he had a foot injury.
Who knows?
I mean, it's And One. We don't know what they're doing.
If it heals the foot, I feel like that's pretty good PR for your brand.
We'll give you a shoe that heals your foot. And One has some of the best shirts ever.
Oh, yeah.
I play daily, you play weekly. Spelled WAK with the faceless guy doing like a crossover is a great one.
That's a good one.
Um,
Iconic logo, too.
Oh, yeah.
As far as faceless mascots go.
Yes. One of my favorite And One memories is And One Street, the mixtape tour was phenomenal. It was a series on ESPN. But when they signed their professor, he got put on the bus on the And One bus. And the professor was a very small white dude from Portland who was on the And One team. He was the only white guy on the And One team. And they put him on the bus with like all the other athletes. And he was like, man, I feel like I could really stick out on this bus. And you're like, well, yeah, that checks out. Like, just visually. Norm Powell also posted a story of him getting a pedicure. So maybe, here's my tinfoil. I don't know about that. Tinfoil hat time. I'm putting on my tinfoil. I want to go sombrero.
Okay.
Just a tinfoil sombrero. Structurally, it's a little dicey.
Yeah.
Maybe he's doing that since he's getting evaluated soon. He just wants to be nice to the doc.
Could be.
He's a nice guy.
Could be.
Is that crazy?
Was he getting this? I'm assuming this was a pedicure not with a boot on.
Yeah, there was no boot. That would be rich person behavior.
Work around the boot.
Work around the boot, please. Don't get it wet. Shout out Norm Powell.
Put the little fish on the boot.
Yeah. Shout out Norm Powell. Hope he's doing well. Hope he is actually getting this prep for the doc. And then let's talk this Coach of the Year talk.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you want to talk? Ty Lue, he's Coach of the Year.
All right.
And
moving on. So the Clippers have only gotten 26 games from Kawhi Leonard and Paul George this season. All of those, shockingly, from Paul George.
Why combine them?
They currently have a better record than the Lakers and the Nets. Ty Lue is not going to be Coach of the Year.
No.
Because that's how the NBA works.
Yeah.
Where is he on your Coach of the Year ladder?
I mean,
other than number one, in terms of how the NBA sees it, which is skewed.
I kind of feel like I feel like Monty kind of got robbed last year, and I think that they'll definitely.
Who was Coach of the Year last year?
Thibodeau.
Oh God, yeah.
Because the Knicks were not awful. Remember, people are going to be talking about this for like a decade. Remember that one year where the Knicks weren't awful?
Yeah. Julius Randle won that award.
And I think that they're going
to... Can they make someone give back the Coach of the Year if next year they're just so bad that the NBA is like, oh God.
I mean, it's like famously the curse, right?
Right,
like,
yeah.
So... Yeah, I think that they're probably going to correct that mistake. He would probably be, to me, at the leader of that conversation.
You think so?
I would say so. Yeah.
I think I like that correct the mistake thing. I think Taylor Jenkins might beat him out.
Taylor Jenkins definitely deserving. Bickerstaff,
sure, but Ty Lue, man, I wish it was. This is like the most valuable player award. Too, right? Like when it comes like you could give this to X player because if they were on this team, it'd be horrible. If the Clippers had any other coach other than maybe the ones we've talked about, Jenkins, Monty Williams, you can put Eric Spoelstra in there. There's only like 4 coaches, I think,
that could take this situation and turn it
and replicate it.
Yeah,
not even outdo it, because I don't think anyone else could get more out of what Ty Lue's gotten out of the Clippers players right now. And a lot of this goes to the assistant coaches too. Shout out Brian Shaw. Shout out all those guys. But there's not a lot of coaches who could do what Ty Lue's been able to do.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed.
All that being said, I'm going to put $10,000 on him winning Coach of the Year. Do I have it?
Oof.
No.
That is
I'll tell you what.
Bad expenditure of money.
Not using Bet Online for this one, if you know what I mean. And then finally, I put up a little soapbox for this. PG is going all in on the metaverse. And it's annoying. I think it's annoying. I'm
done.
If you're listening to this and you enjoy the metaverse, keep it to yourself. Don't tell us about it. He's now into the Metaverse Sports League and something called the Rumble Kongs, which...
What is this?
They just seem to be animated Donkey Kong style characters.
Not even official licensed characters.
No, Donkey Kong is much classier. Donkey Kong is too classy to lend himself to a non-fungible token.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong's fungible. So is Diddy.
Fungin,
So
man.
is the old Donkey Kong. But anyway, it just seems to be Donkey Kong style characters that play each other in basketball. It's not a game. You're not controlling these characters. From what I can gather, their Instagram, shockingly, is very vague on what it actually is.
Of course.
But it's NFTs connected to the metaverse. Steph Curry is also involved. I'm just not sure. I think you're just watching these Rumble Kongs play basketball
Okay.
in the metaverse.
Great.
What are we doing here?
I don't know.
Just go. You know what? Instead of doing this, just go to YouTube and type in 1996 NBA Finals. It's all there.
Yeah.
Just watch that instead.
Just type in monkey basketball, like monkey playing basketball.
They literally, yeah, like they. You know what they do? They make bears play basketball. You can watch real, actual animals play basketball
for free.
for free.
I don't know if you have to pay for this, but
I think it costs 3 Rumble Kong points or whatever.
couple
it is.
Rumble bucks.
I'm just like, there's only literally. It only seems like there's 2 Clippers who are into NFTs,
Yeah.
which is Terrence Mann, which makes sense given the age.
Young
And
man.
there's Paul George, which, come on, man. What are you doing with it?
I mean, he has the expendable income, so.
He does. But Rumble Kongs?
First Clipper to be linked to a pump and dump kind of.
Current
Style
Clipper or
scam.
former Clipper?
I'll let you go either.
Mike Scott.
All right. Yeah, that makes
Chris,
sense.
or no, Chris Kamen.
All right.
No, I'm totally wrong. We know the answer, and it's right in front of us. It's Paul Pierce. It's 100% Paul Pierce, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Or Rex Kalamian, but it's not his fault. Paul Pierce is the answer.
Yeah, definitely. If he's not already involved.
Yeah, it's Pierce coins. That's a good time. All right. Anything else?
No, we got a little off the rails here. We should get out of here. This isn't locked on NFT bashing.
Maybe
But it could
should
be.
Maybe. Coming up on Friday's episode, recap Clippers versus the team across the hall. Let's get this dub.
Let's do it. Let's sweep.
Who says no? Maybe some Pac-Div talking. Maybe a quick preview of the game against the Knicks on Sunday, which I think we're going to be at, right?
Yeah.
Going to be in the building for that one. Love Mary Quarantine, as we do every Friday. It's a fun time. And of course, whatever else happens between now and then in Clipperland. Will, if someone didn't want to listen to our episodes on YouTube, which you can do now, can't watch them. Can only listen. Pretty hard line about that. Where could they find us?
So you can check us out over on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app on your mobile device. We're also on Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on Deezer. We're on Amazon Music. All the usual suspects. All the unusual suspects.
Ooh.
We mentioned it up top, but we do come at you Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Pacific. We'd love to have you listen.
We absolutely would. I have been positive, Chuck Mockler.
And I am William the Opinion Updike. And as always, we appreciate you.